Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here with you on the call. Next to me in the commentary booth, as always, Racing Ron Mons, and in the production carrier, providing you with all these fantastic camera views, replays, graphics, and everything else you see on the screen. The real brains of the operation today, Joshua Wilkie. And the star of today's show, the Radical SR10, 425 horsepower, 725 kilos, no traction control, no ABS. And folks, we are broadcasting the top split of the iRacing public server as we do every Friday at 2100 GMT. So this is not a private event. This is not a league event. You can show up, sign up on the iRacing server, and try your hand at these fantastic Radical SR10s and appear with us on Apex Racing TV. And I'm here to tell you, as I do every week, mastering this car will make you better at every car that you drive, and the upcoming schedule is fantastic. We're looking at Sebring, Road Atlanta, Monza, Oulton Park, and Mount Panorama. But this week, Suzuka, about 450 kilometers southwest of last week's venue, Suzuka, designed in 1962, actually as a Honda test track. And of course, it has the rare in racing figure 8 configuration where the track actually crosses over itself over a bridge that you'll see when the cars exit the Degner curves. Suzuka has been home to Formula One since 1987, and of course the site of many exciting and some controversial finishes and battles in Formula One. Highlights of today's race, I think, will be the fantastic 130R. I told you last week that I thought these Radicals could go through there flat, and after a little driving, it's going to take just the tiniest of lift to make that nose tuck around that corner. Otherwise, they are going to be cooking around that 130R. That should provide us some excitement. Today's configuration, 5.8 clicks, 3.6 miles, 18 corners, and the track record should come as no surprise. Sir Lewis Hamilton set the record here in 2019. He put down a 130.983. And Ron, as we're watching Friedrich putting down some qualifying laps here, he's got about 3/10 behind Lopez, who's put down a provisional pole of 154.7. What are you looking for out of these Radicals at Suzuka today?
Well, I think one thing that I'm looking forward to is a lot of these drivers just trying to keep it on the road. This is one of the twistiest tracks that we've visited so far this season. Of course, in terms of corner numbers, it can't really rival the Nordschleife that we visited earlier this season, which has just 100 bajillion of them, it feels like, whenever you're commentating that or just driving the track for that matter. But in terms of normal, you could say, racetracks, this track has a whole bunch of corners for these drivers to negotiate. And you also have varied types of corners as well. Of course, you have the hairpin, probably the slowest point of this entire track, along with that chicane to round off this lap. But you also have Spoon, as we see Andreas Friedrich with a beautiful drift there, exiting Spoon, going onto this not so straight away, this flat out blast before they're going to hit 130R. So this is going to be a real important section for these drivers to try and get a slipstream and tuck in behind these other cars to have a great run going out of 130R and trying to sneak a wheel down the inside or even around the outside to go for a move here into this final chicane here. So there's varied corners on this track, which has remained fairly unchanged since it was first opened back in the 60s. So it's a really wonderful track, one of the most historic in the world of motorsports in Japan, and one of the best tracks that we visited so far this season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to today's event. This was circled on my calendar from way back. And, oh, there's Lamba, puts down a heater. But Lopez says, oh, yeah, I could clip a 10th off of that. So Lopez puts himself back on the top right after Lamba had edged him as qualifying is winding down here. But there's a lot about Suzuka that will play to the strength of these radicals. They have enough aero to really do well on these long sweeping bends that you see all over this track. One potential problem area is the wowing these bad boys down into that hairpin, both on entry and exit. These cars not great under low speed braking and not great at putting the power down in first or second gear, as some of these drivers will be using coming out of the hairpin. So some potential problem areas there, and we may just see some dives into that hairpin as well. So we'll have to keep an eye out for action on that part of the course as we're watching Gonzaga here put down his last qualifying effort. Looks like he's sitting right now in P10, and if he can just take a couple of ticks off, he may be able to squeak ahead of Walters, Larson, and Rees, and McCutcheon. They're all separated by about a 10th here on the timing tower. So Gonzaga has a chance to move up here, depending on how this lap turns out. He's running out of time, but I think he ought to be able to finish this one.
And one point that I was going to mention a little bit earlier, which is definitely playing a big role when it comes to qualifying right now, is confidence. These drivers have to have a whole lot of confidence, whether it's throwing these cars through 130Rs, we just saw Jorge Gonzaga do, or having confidence under braking or going through those slow corners. Ooh, I thought that Jorge Gonzaga was just about to overshoot that corner. But one thing that these drivers need buckets full of here for tonight's race is confidence in their race car. So we'll see if Jorge Gonzaga had the confidence and the guts to improve his time. Look, and I don't believe he improved his time there. So Jorge Gonzaga going to qualify for this race in P10. So a little bit of a mixed up grid. I'm seeing James Berry there, who's currently second in the season standings for the Radicals, well down the order. So a little bit of a mixed field that we have for tonight's race.
Yeah, interesting, and it looks like we're assembling our grid right now so we can get those qualifying results up for you here in a moment. All right, and here we go. We got, there's our front row. Lopez next to Lamba. Lamba, currently your points leader on the season after 8 weeks of competition. He has a substantial lead over P2 Berry. The next row, Friedrich and Braun, Iani and McCutcheon, a couple of our frequent flyers there in row 3. Rees and Larson, Walters and Gonzaga, we were just riding with in qualifying. Kyriakopoulos and Fabio Iati there in 11 and 12. Lelevre and Berry all the way back in P14, 1.3 seconds off a pole. Not sure what happened to Berry. He usually stops by to chat with us so we can ask him about his qualifying. Pulkowski and Gallus will be there in 15 and 17, and bringing up the rear, Franco Sanchez. So as we look back at the grid, we are looking at Lopez in P1 is going to have a slightly awkward outside entry into the first corner here. And remember, no pace lap and a standing start. So these high-powered radicals without traction control will be taken off here dead cold. It can be challenging to get the power down. And again, Lamba may have the advantage there as we're sitting with Friedrich there briefly, but Lamba may have the advantage having the inside line into turn 1. As we wait for the lights to tick down, we're riding with Lopez. See if he gets away clean. Lopez looking pretty good there, but Lamba still sniffing around, and Friedrich now making a move around the outside. Actually, Lopez has lost 2 positions there. He got smoked off of the start. I'm not sure how I missed that, but Lopez has fallen to P3. It's Lamba from Friedrich, from Lopez, from Iani, from Rees, who's also moved up a couple here. No incidents on the start. Looks like everyone got away clean, and we are throwing down lap 1 here at Suzuka. Oh my goodness, and commentators curse. Somebody has already packed it. That's Kyriakopoulos. Has taken big damage going off of turn 1 through the kitty litter and into the barrier. Oh my goodness, he did not want his race to start that way, because I know these drivers were looking forward to Suzuka. Ouch.
I believe that was actually heading into turn 3, but as you were about to say before that incident happened, very clean start so far. And getting back to the subject of your pole sitter, Lopez, I don't think that was more of a bad start for him. More of, I think it was a great start for Lamba and Friedrich. They just had a fantastic jump off the line. So we're going to get a replay here to see the action that happened farther behind. We're following Dennis Kyriakopoulos, was running farther towards the back of the field. Usually we see him towards the midfield or up towards the front, but he had a little bit of assistance there, I believe, from James Berry, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure who that car was there that pitched him into a spin there, but a little bit of assistance there that helped him into the wall, but a very tough way for Kyriakopoulos' race to start.
Yeah, that may have been Barry. There was some overlap there. Kyriakopoulos may have moved over when there was not room. So unfortunate there. That car is definitely stuffed, and Kyriakopoulos appears to have taken a tow. So that is definitely not the way he wanted this one to start. And I think we're looking at car 8. Yeah, that was Barry there. And now we're back up to the leader, Lamba, who has already gapped the field. Look at that, 1.5 seconds in one lap as Lamba rolls across the start finish at the end of the first lap. He's already got a 1.5 second gap from Lopez, Friedrich, Rise, and Braun as they commence lap 2 here. My goodness, Lamba driving off, a very highly rated driver. He's over 6K, and as I mentioned, the season points leader at this juncture.
He's having a very good drive right now and is trying to cap off a fantastic season for him. He's been a name that we don't really recognize in the past, but when he started off the season, showed up at the Red Bull Ring and really put on a great drive there. He hasn't taken wins, he hasn't kicked butts and taken names, but what he has done has been a very consistent driver all throughout the races, whether it be these broadcasts here at 2100 GMT or whether it be all the other Radical races throughout the week. He's just been a force to be reckoned with when it comes to this series, so he's just putting on another very good drive right now. But I will say, Lucas Rice, that we mentioned there, currently running in P4, is already up 3 spots so far. He has a little bit of a gap between himself and Lamba there, so he's definitely a little bit on the back foot currently, and actually even more on the back foot now. I think he had some kind of incident there coming through the hairpin. We're going to get a very quick replay. I believe it might have been a crash here, so we're following him. He was just barely behind Andreas Friedrich here heading into the hairpin, and we're going to see maybe a little bit of an overshoot, maybe a spin here. Oh no, a little bit of contact there, pitches him into a spin, a little bit of front end contact. I don't think he picked up too much damage there with contact with the number 7 of Heinz Brown, a name that I do not recognize from this series, but Heinz is having a pretty good race, currently running in P4. But right as I was going to say that Rice was having a fantastic race, he drops down to P7. He was up 3 spots from where he started. I'm sure right now he is a man on a mission to try and regain that spot, but I think if anyone's going to challenge Lamba, it's either going to be Lopez, who we saw as a standout star last time out in Tsukuba, but no, you can see a lot of drivers going off there, coming through the chicane there, so I think we have some more drama to match Kyriakopoulos' crash at the start.
And Rees falling again here. My goodness, the commentator's curse at its finest there. Just as Ron was complimenting Rees on his movement upward, he first fell all the way back down to his qualifying position at P7.
Oh, there it is.
Oh my goodness. And has taken a beating again there. So Rees all the way down to P9. And Iadi involved in a little problem there at the Cascio Triangle. Very easy to overcook that entry. It's under heavy braking when these cars are not awesome. Oh my goodness, bang, and yikes. little out
That
of
was
control
pretty
there.
substantial contact. That was, I believe that was Kettle Larson there, a name that I recognize from some of the other Apex broadcasts here, including the IRL GT3 trophy. He was running in the Pro-Am category last season and always sticks out on track with those IGL Coatings E-Racing cars, but that was definitely a move to stick out in all the wrong ways. That was fairly substantial contact, I must admit, between the both of them. I think Reese might have some kind of front-end damage. He might have had a little bit of a tweak on his front splitter after the contact coming through the hairpin, but he definitely has some kind of side pod damage after that incident. So I can imagine at a track like this, which is a little bit straight line dependent, he might be in for a world of hurt between now and the checkered flag.
Yeah, and we're looking at Polhosky. Looks like he has stuffed it, missing some front body work there, and we'll take a look at what happens with him. And where are we? Looks like we're no. It looks like he's already missing a little bit of polymer molding there on the front of his car, and way off pace as he rolls through 130R. Yeah, it looks like we'll have lost track of that replay, but obviously some big hit on the nose there on Polhosky, and he may have retired that car. You see him sitting there in the pits and no fast repairs available there. Maybe he's sitting there taking his optionals, and meanwhile, here we've got, looks like Iani sniffing around the back of Braun as he's closed that gap down to about 0.2 here, and just coming through the first couple of turns and into the S's. So Iani may have an opportunity coming into Degner here. We'll ride along with him for a moment and see if he can make something happen. And this part of the course definitely requires a lot of patience. This track was reputedly designed as kind of a tire torture course, and these radicals will go through the tires. So we may see tire management play a role as this one unfolds. And here we are going into Degner, and as we exit Degner, I want you to take a look up there, and there's the bridge where the track crosses over itself, and the awesome figure 8 configuration here at Suzuka.
Yeah, it's a very nice little unique feature with this track. It's really a unique circuit in the world of motor racing because you have some fantastic corners here, and as you said, it is really a tire torture chamber, if you could put it that way. We were going to mention at the start of this broadcast how the tire management and really just getting the tires up to temperature was going to be a big role, especially towards the start, of course, with these cars starting from a standing start. They don't have any time to warm their cars up and warm their tires up, and it can lead to some accidents. And I think we have a look at the accident that we are following with the other number 16 car. You can see him absolutely wrecked there in the pits. I believe this might be the replay, the incident he had. And I think might be a little bit glitched on my end, so I think I'll have to.
Yeah, they're trading noses there, coming out of the Casio triangle onto the front stretch. The car in front of him turned, and no place for Polhosky to go. They bang nose to nose, both spit off a little body work, and Polhosky may have parked it. He has not yet emerged from the pits here. And meanwhile, lap 5 sees Lamba's lead balloon to 2.3 seconds, and we haven't seen this in a while, but Lamba may be looking at a double-digit lead here before this one is over. Meanwhile, riding along with McCutchinson, sniffing around the back of Iani and Braun. They have formed together in a little train, and again, we could see some excitement here heading into Degner. Have not seen any pass attempts yet, but it is a good place to stick your nose in. If you can sneak it in the inside, you can get quite a bit of curb on this one and quite a bit of curb on Degner too, so there's some extra space that you can use for an overtake if you're feeling brave.
Point we mentioned earlier in this broadcast about confidence, it really rings true not only for trying to get the maximum amount of pace out of these cars at this track, it really plays a role when it comes to just trying to pass each other, because at this track you don't have a whole lot of heavy braking zones, and the heavy braking zones that you do have, mainly those being the hairpin and the final chicane, are really fairly tight sections of the circuit where you really have to establish dominance and put on a just stormer of a move to try and get past each other. So I think at a track like this, really passing racing is going to be somewhat difficult compared to some of the other tracks that we visited, certainly compared to Spa, which was just a slipstream fest of a lifetime here. So I think at a track like this, really, it's all about confidence, and it's all about little mind games as well. I think we might see some flashing of the headlights. Some of these drivers are trying to mentally screw with each other to force them into some kind of mistake. So I think that will be something that we see pop up a lot between now and the checkered flag.
And as we watch this train of Braun, Ianni, and McCutcheon, I'm reminded, of course, as many of you race fans are, of a little contact back in the day between involving Ayrton Senna here in turn 1. It is possible to pull off a pass there, and we might see some noses get stuck inside there. Haven't seen it yet, but sure would like to see a little bit of dicing there on the entry to turn 1. Takes a lot of bravery, but it is doable. And here's a little side-by-side action between Iati and Rees. Rees still hanging in there after having a very rough couple of moments and fighting to hang on to P9 as Iati is all over him, testing him, going side-by-side through the S's.
Iati currently rounds off a little train of cars right now. Iati currently running in P10, up 2 spots from where he started this race, and then you can go back to James Berry in P11. He's up 3 spots, and then Daniel Galvis, a name that we haven't really seen so far in this series. He's currently running in P12. We haven't seen much of him during this broadcast. He's currently up 4 spots from where he started. Certainly helped out quite a lot from the chaos that happened ahead of him. Right now he's putting together a pretty good race, currently the highest position gainer so far, and you can see that nice little stretch there between P3 and P6 of all those drivers remaining exactly where they started this race. So not really the whole lot of shaking that we expect, mainly a lot of drivers just dropping back because of incidents. You can see Kettle Larson there in P13, down 5 positions from where he started. Certainly has a lot to do with that incident he had many laps ago with Reese. So a lot of drivers having some mixed races so far.
Yeah, and some great camera work there of Gonzaga sizing up Walters. Looks like Walters sporting a new livery on that Radical SR10. And now we are looking at Braun leading Ianni and McCutcheon into the Casio Triangle again. And come on, fellas, show me some action into turn 1. I know you've been thinking about it, and maybe they're just measuring each other up, saving it for later. Sure would like to see a move there, though.
I think some of these drivers may have a death wish, but I think Lucas Reese might be one of the drivers that has a death wish. He might try and go for a move here. Heading into turn 1, you can see him getting that slipstream, trying to stay in the drift as long as he can. He pulls that into the corner, and he's going to be stuck on the inside here. I think he doesn't have the speed. Actually, no, you can see there that was Iati running a little bit wide, and that was extremely close to contact, but Lucas Reese pulls off a fairly good move there, but it's not over yet. You can see now Iati is trying to get that move back done on him again, coming through turns 3 and 4 there, but right now that was some nice battling between those two.
Yeah, and here is Iati is going to get by Reese here. Reese had been leading for a while, and before that pass you just saw into turn 1, here's Iati getting Reese on the entry to 130R, and yeah, baby, that's why I was looking forward to this race. These Radicals are fantastic at Suzuka and are living up to it, and oh my goodness, I was ready to give Reese the move of the day by his pass into turn 1, but the pass into 130R, yes, that is my move of the day so far. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I think when our producer Josh is going over this broadcast a little bit later on in the week, trying to pick the highlights, that has to be it, because that was one of the most badass moves I've seen in all of sim racing in my about a year of covering broadcasts here on Apex Racing TV. That was so incredibly close, and to do it really at the fastest section of this track, that takes a lot of guts. That guy is carrying his bulls in a freaking wheelbarrow. That was incredibly bold there. I've never seen... I mean, again, it goes back to the point of having confidence in your race car. That is just confidence 101 there. You can't really pull off a move like that if you don't have confidence in your race car. That is a chef's kiss move there, because that was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And these Radicals are in their element at 130R. They're way over 100 miles an hour. They're in top gear, and that's when the downforce is really working on these things. And yeah, as you said, Ron, you got to be confident. You got to commit. And oh my goodness, did Iati ever show some brass on that one, as you pointed out. Fantastic stuff here at Suzuka.
Yeah, great stuff so far. We are expecting this track to feel a little bit racy, and it's definitely ringing true right now. And it's a little bit of a streak. We've had some fantastic races so far this season. And actually, next time out for the series, we're going to be running at one of the best tracks that we saw. We had a fantastic race there a few seasons ago. That'll be at Oulton Park in 1 week's time. That's going to be a pretty damn good race as far as I'm concerned. But we're not over with the racing here. We're on lap 8 of 13 so far, so not a whole lot left in this race right now. We're riding on board with James Berry. He's caught up to this pack here with Ayati and Reese right now, and I think he is trying to size up the move on the both of them because he is probably a little bit upset with how his race has gone thus far. Had a pretty bad qualifying. I'm not sure, maybe he got bit by some kind of track limits violation on his quick lap and just wasn't able to set a good time, but he's clawed his way up through the field and is trying to get another position here on Ayati, coming through the hairpin, tried to get the move done, but just wasn't fast enough. Exiting the corner, but he's still feeling quite racy right now. I think James Berry right now is trying to get the move done to break into the top 10. He's going to try and go for it, going into Spoon. That is incredibly close there. Is he going to be close? Okay, the little bit of argy-bargy action there, and Ayati doing a very weird interpretation of track limits there, heading through Spoon. But meanwhile, up towards the front, we're running at the top 5 right now. This is Heinz Braun trying to go for a move around the outside of Ayani, heading into 130R. Unfortunately, that move didn't work out for him as it worked out with some of his competitors a few moments ago, but he's still trying to find any way to get past Ayani there, heading into the Casio triangle there, going onto the start-finish straightaway. These two are pretty close and pretty evenly matched pace-wise. We're going to get their laps this time by, and they're fairly evenly matched there. You can actually see Braun a little bit slower, but he's still feeling really racy. That was bold stuff there if he tried to sneak a wheel down the inside, but he goes around the outside and pulls it off there on Ayani to move up into P4. As our producer Josh just said, what a move. That was a beautiful move there from Heinz Braun to move up into P4.
Wow, and Iani did everything he could to stop that, covering the inside, almost forcing Braun into the pit exit there, as you saw, and then Braun swings way outside and takes the normal line. Here we are riding along with Braun. He starts to peek inside. Iani moving over, almost blocking there. I'm not going to call it out because I'm not a steward, but Braun taking advantage of the better entry to turn 1 and makes the outside burn into turn 1. We are seeing some epic driving here out of these Radical drivers at Suzuka. This race is absolutely fantastic.
These drivers have always had to run a razor blade edge, if I can spit my words out here. They've always had to run it very thin to try and make some kind of mistake, but I think Braun made some kind of mistake. As you can see now, he's dropped down to P6. We might get a replay to see what in the world happened to him, but right as I was talking about these drivers having to run a very thin line here to try and keep it on the road and go as fast as you possibly can, it looks like Heinz Braun, just after pulling off that great move, made a mistake here going through the Degnas now. I think he hit that inside curb a little bit, then got stuck on the outside curb, blocked up there heading into the corner, and that was very close to contact between himself and Mick Hutchinson there, but just a simple little mistake I've made of myself, and sadly for Heinz Braun, it catches him out a little bit as he actually dropped back quite a lot in this fight now between Iani and Mick Hutchinson. The gap is now about 1 second separating himself, and it'll be even more now. As you can see, Braun had a massive overshoot heading into the chicane, so Heinz Braun, after pulling off that great move, it shows off the dichotomy of motorsports, the tale of two halves. He had a fantastic move heading into turn 1, and only a few moments later he makes a very costly mistake there heading through the Degnas.
Yeah, and that could be a little tire management there, Ron. I mean, that huge move into turn 1 is like making a withdrawal from the bank of grip and the bank of tire temperature, and definitely roasted those tires getting that move done, and you kind of have to back off and let him recover, and he may not have done that, which caused a kind of sloppy section through Degner there and a loss of that hard-fought position, and tragic there for Braun. He was probably awash in adrenaline after that big ballsy move, and yikes, all for naught.
Yeah, it was again, it shows off the real struggles and the little unique quirks and features when it comes to these radicals, the tire management, whether it be when these cars were driving like milk trucks a few seasons ago, or whether it's driving like the absolute track beasts that they're driving like nowadays with the updates at iRacing, and the people at Radical Sim Racing have done to really make these cars drive as well as they can. The tire management is so important when it comes to these races, and at this track where these drivers are putting an absolute beating on their tires. I mean, I don't think there's any other ways that this track could beat up their tires anymore. They're just using it to the absolute detrimental edge there. All these drivers are pushing themselves and their cars and the track limits. As you can see, Reese there running wide, coming through Spoon all these drivers are just pushing it so hard. I mean, it's beautiful to watch here from the commentary booth because we're seeing all these drivers just push it to the absolute limit, but it's also a little bit of a detriment. All these drivers are running their stuff really, really hard. James Berry trying to run his stuff hard, going for a move around the outside, and he pulls it off, coming through 130R. We need to have a highlight reel from just this broadcast alone because we've seen so many great overtakes here. It has been beautiful to watch so far, and we only have about 3 laps to go.
And that epic move will put Barry into P9, up 5 positions from his qualifying. And again, you see, I guess that's, my apologies, lost me for a second. That's Reese trying to cover the inside into 130R. Barry says, fine, cover the inside. I'll give you the outside burn. How do you like that? And Barry in P9. And my goodness, you are right, Ron. A highlight reel of this race is going to be about a half an hour long. The driving has been incredible.
Yeah, and all these drivers are so quick lap time wise. I mean, you can see from the left-hand side of your screen right now, all these drivers' fastest laps are still fairly close, all things considered. Dennis Kyriakopoulos, a little bit of an outlier there because he's at 159.1 after fixing the damage that he sustained in that lap 1 schism there that he had coming through turn 3. But all these drivers' fastest laps are still fairly close. They're all within the 154 to 156 bracket. So all these drivers fairly close to each other right now, and it's a little bit spread out, certainly up towards the front, as this man Daniel Lamba has grown his lead up towards the front over Lopez to about 3.5 seconds right now. But all these drivers pace-wise are still incredibly close. So with those really tight battles outside the top 5 and even outside the top 10 for that matter, they're just racing each other so hard. They know each other's strengths. All these drivers pretty much race each other, even though this isn't a league or anything like that. This is the official series, but a lot of these drivers are in cahoots. They talk with each other quite a lot in between the races, quite a lot during the races as well. So all these drivers know their strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of these competitors use those strengths and weaknesses to their competitors with great effect, and it leads to some beautiful racing that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and some great camera work here from our producer Josh, showing you the blimp view of Lamba, Lopez, and Friedrich, your podium as we go. And those top 3 have spread out quite a bit. Lamba kind of enjoying a little track day. His advantage has grown to 3.5 seconds. And Lopez, Friedrich are all pretty spread out. Although it looks like Iani is maybe sniffing around the back of Friedrich a little bit with McCutcheon in tow, so we may see a little action yet there. And there's Reese. He wants that back position back from Barry, and he gets that one done. And Barry is not going to take that line down, and this one is not over as we're on lap 12 of 13. And I'll tell you, after watching James Barry for a couple of seasons here and interviewing him a few times, he is a strategic driver and a thinker. So he is not done with Rees, and he's still smacking his lips over that P9, and I give him a pretty good shot at making that happen before this one's over.
But as these two start to battle, I think I have a fairly good prediction here. This may not, so hopefully these drivers don't come to blows. As you can see, a mistake there from Reese, and now Barry is going to try and reclaim that position. Heading into the spoon buff, these two come to blows. Ayada right behind is going to be in the catbird seat to claw up those spots, but you can see now he's actually closed up quite a lot with how hard these two have battled over the past few minutes. And James Barry has now moved up back into P9, but it's not over yet. Reese is going to have a great run coming through the very long right-hander trying to go into spoon. He's going to be very close there. I thought they were going to make contact heading into that corner. It was very close between the two of them, and I thought that Reese was going to try and go for a move there heading into spoon, but just wasn't close enough. He's going to try and save up his stuff for a great exit coming out of onto this back straightaway and trying to pull off a move that James Barry did on him a few moments ago into 130 yards. Going to be very close. Your leader is taking a white flag, but our attention here is on Reese and Barry. Reese, it looked like he was going to try and size up a move around the outside. Is he going to try and go for a move coming into the chicane? No, Barry hits the brakes a little bit earlier. It's a matter of if these drivers have saved up their stuff. I think Ayati right behind us probably saved up his stuff the most. He's kind of just been minding his own business for the past few laps while these two have battled hard. So I gotta imagine he might be in a very advantageous position to try and save up his tires and be in a good spot. You can see he just set his personal best lap of the race at 55.6 right now. So he is really setting some good lap times right now. So I think I can't really discredit the driver of the number 17 car out in this fight.
Yeah, and just another potential strategic observation. Barry may be pushing Iati back into, or pushing Reese back into Iati, give him something else to do other than attack. But watching Larson here, and the first part of the Casio triangle, a little inconvenient on this lap, so he's just going to take the old part, and yes, that is going to result in a slowdown penalty for iRacing. So that will cost him more time than he gained by blowing the entry. But meanwhile, back to Barry, and very short gap behind him to Reese. Oh boy, my goodness! And Barry's potential assistant Iati goes wide there. Coming out of where was he? Degner 2, I guess. And here we are in the hairpin, heading into Spoon for the last time. And Reese running out of time here if he wants to regain that P9. And the crafty James Barry, I suspect, is not going to give him the opportunity. But here we are into Spoon for the last time. And we're going to see what happens in Spoon. We're going to take a quick jump back up to Lombo, who's driven away with this one. Going to be taking the checker here in a moment. But here are Barry and Reese. Barry and Reese headed towards 130R with Gonzaga off in the distance. And real quick, there's a quick look at Lomba taking the checker. He's driven away with this one from Lopez from Friedrich. But meanwhile, yep, there is Barry and Reese tries to sneak around the outside of the Casio triangle, and that's not going to work. Again, that is going to be a slowdown, and that is going to cost him more than just the one position he failed to take off of Barry. So getting a little desperate there on hot tires at the end, overcooks the entry to the Casio triangle, a cloud of smoke, and Reese is gone, and that'll put Iati up into the top 10. Oh my goodness, we're going to get another look at this, riding along with Reese. Getting a little bit of a draft on this entry to the Casio triangle. Barry covers the outside and sends Reese for a ride through the grass, and that will be that for Reese. We'll check the final results here in a little bit to see what that cost him, but that was definitely a slowdown. Cost him at least one position, and my goodness, what a battle. And Reese, despite having lost 4 positions, maybe had one of the most eventful races of all these guys. And James Barry, after disappointing qualifying, moves up 5 positions somewhat predictably. My goodness, Ron, what a race. This is one of the great ones, an instant classic.
Instant classic indeed. That was beautiful to watch from start to finish. A lot of drivers going for bold moves at parts of the track where you don't really see drivers attempting overtakes at. Multiple moves going around the outside of 130R, and it was just, I said it earlier, it's a chef's kiss of a race. An instant classic, as you said there, JR, and just, this series never disappoints in the action department, and fingers crossed we have some even more action. We're at the halfway mark now of this season, but I'm sure between now and the end of this iRacing season in early March, we're still going to have some awesome racing between then and now.
Wow, my goodness. I'm going to take a quick peek here. I'm expecting to see one of our favorite drivers and a man who stops by to talk to us pretty frequently, Barry, to see if he pops up here in the waiting room. I don't see him yet. So, Josh, maybe we can make a run through our results if they're available, as we see if we have anybody stopping by to visit us here in the booth. And if I want to see the results, I need to switch screens, and there they are. Daniel Lomba from P2 smokes the pole sitter off of the start and never looks back, winning, as you see there, by almost 4 seconds. So it's Lomba from Lopez in P2. Friedrich will round out the podium, then Iani, Hutchinson, Braun, Walters, Gonzaga, James Barry, the hard charger, with some wicked moves today. Iati will round out the top 10. Then Lucas Rees, who was a fighter, man. He had some ups and downs, but never gave up. And you saw him at war until the very last corner. Great effort by him. Then Gallus, Larson, Sanchez, Kyriakopoulos, who never recovered from contact with another car and an off with and a barrier contact at the beginning. Not the way he wanted this race to start out. Finishes a lap down. And then Polhalski, you saw him blow the nose off of his radical. He went home after that. And Lever also had a very rough start, finishes 13 in a rear. Yeah, a little rougher than I was expecting. 15 out of 17 cars finishing. But man, oh man, that was absolutely a fantastic race. Definitely one of the best that we have covered here. My goodness.
Yeah, that is one of the that's one of the greatest races I've seen from this series. And on the subject of there being not many DNFs, it's a little bit of a shock, you know, like with how hard all these drivers were being and banging with each other. The fact that 15 drivers saw the checkered flag is a bit of a shock to me. What about you, JR?
Yeah, absolutely. It's there was a lot of risk being taken, and these radicals were getting the wheels driven off of them. Man, I mean, I could not have asked for a more absolutely outstanding race. This is going to be one of the best races on Apex Racing TV this weekend, without a doubt. And speaking of Apex Racing TV, we are not just about these radicals. We have got some of the best cars, best tracks, and most skilled esports drivers in the world every day, for the most part. This weekend, 2 Ray esports events, both the Formula Ford and Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors series will be fighting it out at Willow Springs. On Monday, the Rickmatech Touring Car Cup will go to Zandvoort, and on Tuesday, round 9 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup will visit Road America, and those are always fantastic races. And man, oh man, my goodness, this season has been fantastic. This race at Suzuka is a high point, and we have got some fantastic tracks coming up on the schedule. So make sure to check back in with us at 2100 GMT every Friday for these races. And as I said, this is the top split of the public server. So if you want to join these outstanding drivers on these fantastic tracks, sign up and give it a shot. So I think that is going to wrap it up for us here today. J.R. Gregory, again, on the call. Beside me, as always, Racing Ron Mons and our producer, Joshua Wilkie, on behalf of the Apex Racing TV team. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Friday, and have a fantastic weekend.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.